What is the dumbest idea you have ever had that actually worked? In university, I was late on an assignment that was supposed to be in my teacher's Dropbox by noon that day. I didn't manage to get there until almost 3, so I was sure he had already emptied it. Now, the drop boxes were literal boxes in cubbies with a slot on the front and a lock on them that prevented them from being pulled out. The rack holding them was just a basic metal frame with about 5 rows of boxes. My teacher's box was somewhere in the middle of the shelf. So I figured, I'm late anyways, why not take a chance? And slipped my assignment into the box below my teacher's box. I got my assignment handed back a few weeks later than everyone else, and it had a note from another teacher scribbled on it that said, "Looks like this fell into my box by mistake." I got full marks on the assignment. Real estate told me I had to have the carpets professionally cleaned, wasn't in the contract, or I'd lose my $800 bond. I did some research and found out I could become an accredited carpet cleaner, as there are no official licensing boards in my state. So, I did what any sane person would do. I paid the $85, did the online course, and got my certificate. Registered a business name, ABN, etc., all free. Handed the property management a copy of my accreditation and an invoice for services. I became a professional carpet cleaner and launched a vacate cleaning business that is still going 6 months later. Edit to add, I did clean the carpets. They claimed I didn't and required a professional cleaner's invoice as proof. So I gave them the proof. Now I help people who are being unfairly treated by their property management and advise them on what steps to take in regards to cleaning, repairs, etc. With the return of the bond and some smart shopping, I was able to purchase my own equipment to continue the job. I then claimed those costs back on tax. In college, my buddy and I took an investing class, and for one of the projects we had a month to invest fake dollars into the stock market and see which team would have the most money after a month. It was spring semester, so we put all of our fake money into Heinz, thinking there would be a spike in ketchup and mustard sales as the weather got warmer. The next day, Berkshire Hathaway purchased the entire Heinz company, and the professor accused us of insider trading. We had no idea what we were doing. To clarify, we didn't actually get in trouble for insider trading, but the professor came over to us before the next class and was like, "What happened here?" We explained it, and she thought it was funny but said we would definitely be investigated for insider trading if this was real money. I once faked being sick when I was in middle school and told my mom I had a sore throat and felt a cold coming on. She took me to the doctor, and it turned out that I did, in fact, have strep throat. In college, I was taking a class that required me to purchase an online textbook and workbook that was registered under your name, basically ensuring that each student would have to buy a new online copy each semester instead of buying used textbooks. I had a friend who took this class a semester before me, so we came up with the idea to message customer service and explain that I had recently gotten married, so my last name had changed, and I legally changed my first name from my friend's first name to my first name, and I would need them to change it in their system. It totally worked, and the rep even congratulated me on my marriage. I used a soap bottle as a makeshift sink plunger. And this worked? I'm impressed. Yeah, the neck of the bottle fit the drain near perfectly. So I just had to stuff a rag into the overflow drain. I didn't want to use my toilet plunger in my sink, so this was what I did. Bobcat tire blew during a job. Had another tire, but no jack. Positioned the Bobcat behind a dump truck. Bobcat then tries to lift the ass end of the dump truck. Dump truck hella heavy. Bobcat lifted itself instead, tire changed, and back to work. That sounds like a good way to end up crushed by a skid steer. Put Jesus in as Wi-Fi password in church. It worked. Bet my husband I could fix the dent in the car with a plunger. It worked. I got rear-ended one time, right around Christmas, and had a dent in my back bumper. That summer I had enough spare money to go get it fixed, but when I looked at the bumper there was no dent. As the weather got hotter, it caused the bumper to expand and eventually it popped back into place. I once got an extra day to work on a video project in high school. By coming to class with a video that was just a quarter second of blackness, eagerly volunteering to go first, then acting confused and scared when the file didn't work. The teacher took pity on me and told me to just bring it the following day, and I got to finish it that evening and still got full credit as if I did it on time. I once completely blanked on an essay assignment and didn't realize till I was sitting in class. Luckily, the teacher didn't collect the essays till the end of class, and I proceeded to write the whole paper in my notebook during lecture. When people were handing in essays, I went up and told the teacher that I forgot to print it, but I had a version in my email, showing him the handwritten one to prove I had completed the assignment. He let me go print it, and I typed the whole thing up in like 5 minutes, ran back, handed it in, and got like a C or B. Couldn't argue that since I was about to get a 0. Not my idea, but my mom's. I dropped one of my earrings and couldn't find it, so she threw my other earring in the floor, and it happened to land next to the first one. Brother, go find your brother! Adventures of Tom Sawyer. That's not dumb, your mom is clearly just a witch. We had a noisy rotating rooster weather vane loud enough to keep people awake on windy nights, despite having been lubed. So I filled the hole the rooster rotates in with Crisco, fat used to make pastry crisp, even though people said it was a dumb idea and wouldn't work. Never had to lube it again because the Crisco didn't break down like other lubes. I have a similar story. Kitchen shears rusted at the joint between the two blades to the point where it took significant pressure just to move them at all. Googled solutions that seemed tedious and required buying food-grade cleaners and lubrication, which didn't seem worth it for cheap kitchen shears. So I just dropped some olive oil in there, and they've been fine since. Back in the flip phone days, I had dropped mine and the screen stopped working. I could make and receive calls, but the screen was just completely blank. I put up with it for a couple of weeks because I couldn't afford a new phone. But one day I had the thought of, well, if dropping the phone made the connection loose, maybe the same thing can fix it, and threw my phone at the ground. I picked it back up and the screen was working. When I was brand new to the Army, we were training with another unit, and we had to defend the Urban Combat Area, MOET site, from an incoming force. We were only allowed a few hours to prepare. One guy suggested that we set up trip wires to, at least, slow them down. The doors are all painted bright blue, and all anyone had was my package of black 550 cord, parachute cord, that could easily be seen. Setting this up, we thought there was no way they would miss it. I was wrong. Instead of checking the door, like they were supposed to, the opposing force simply tried to rush through. I almost couldn't return fire due to the fact I was laughing so hard. I even put a piece, just below knee level, in the doorway to the room I was in. I turned around when I heard people falling over each other. I looked and almost the entire squad was crawling on top of each other trying to get up. I put my weapon on burst and emptied the magazine. Then fumbled with my last one as I started to laugh even harder than before. After I blindly fired down the hallway, I just leaned against the wall, and the entire group and myself just looked at the scene and started laughing. Then their platoon leader came running in and tripped over the same cord. At this point I was done. Put my weapon on safe, put it against the wall, and tried not to piss my pants over the whole situation. We were at a friend's house about to cook a roast. He needed to be patted dry with a paper towel, but we were out of it. I semi-jokingly suggested using a couple slices of bread. We all chuckled at the idea. It worked perfectly. In my senior year of high school, we had to spend our final quarter doing mandatory volunteer work to graduate. I was placed at a head start in my city, and while some of the kids I worked with were great, there was one, Brandon, who was an absolute nightmare. 20 months old, endless energy, no empathy, no speech beyond a few words, and no ability to recognize pain in other children. At nap time, someone always had to be sitting next to his cot, as he would otherwise just get up and run around, sometimes hitting the other sleeping kids, if he could get away with it. He would be a spiteful little shit and repeatedly stick his feet out from under his blanket after you pushed it back in, like it was a game. One day I got so frustrated trying to get this brat to sleep that I basically just laid him down flat, arms and legs together, and closely tucked his blanket in under him from top to bottom like a burrito. To my shock and delight, he made no attempt to escape and was asleep within 2 minutes. I repeated this tactic over the next few days with the same results. It worked. Brandon would sleep. Brandon would actually fucking sleep. One of the actual teachers there saw this one day, and asked me what I was doing. I explained the process, but she was skeptical until I showed her just how quickly Brandon would chill out. I swear, her face lit up like a Christmas tree. Oh my God, you're right, he actually falls asleep. I forgot to bring a resume to a job interview, but I had an index card in my bag. I cut the index card in half and wrote my name, my contact info, and creative problem solver in my best handwriting, and gave a copy of my business card to both the interviewers. I got the job. I was working as art director at an animation studio, making videos for clients. One client was especially pesky about the use of yellow in the background. They wanted it to be that of their logo, which was this horrible neon piss yellow. We advised against it, but after numerous calls we had to cave and gave a version with that color. They hated it and asked for a change. What followed were 12 versions with numerous calls in between tweaking the color over and over. Eventually I got tired of it and just sent the original version again. I didn't even bother to rename the file. The client said, "This looks exactly the way I wanted, thank you." How that ever went right I still have no idea. Wearing a motorcycle helmet while snow blowing. I did it because I miss riding. It kept my face warm, and when snow would fly back at me the visor would protect me. I'm stuck on a cliff, but if I jump at a really sharp angle at that gravel field, I could just slide down there and be fine, just like in TV. Every time I think about this I am amazed I'm not either flattened by a rock or impact against something. Childhood really is just the tutorial level sometimes. When I was young and broke I bought a sofa from a used furniture store. I had no way to take the sofa home. I went to a used car lot a couple of blocks away and took a truck for a test drive. What is the dumbest idea you have ever had that actually worked? Leave a comment and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos like this one.